Hey Talha, how can I help you? What do you want to talk about?
So I'm very new to data. I just got done with my pre-masters and now I'll
Awesome.
be doing my master's in data science and marketing analytics. I just wanted to ask you, considering the current job market, what employers actually demand, what should I learn, what should I focus on in order to succeed in my career as a data scientist?
Good question, and that's very common. I mean, a lot of people are in that situation as well. Personally, for yourself, first of all, what you should focus on is just trying to find any job, because up until the point that you're starting to climb the ladder in your employment and gain experience, so any job will be your first step into the job market. However, if you do have a choice, I think that focusing on jobs where you will be surrounded by people you can learn from is advisable. A lot of small companies, for example, they will offer you to join as the only data scientist, and you will be in the jobs where you're the only person doing something. It's okay, it's a job, but at the same time, your growth will be limited at that stage. I think in terms of what employers are actually looking for, look, it's difficult because the current job market is such that there are more candidates looking for a job than jobs actually available.
Okay.
So a lot of employers, they optimize for real world experience. They want to try and get more experienced people just because from their perspective it's people becoming productive faster and all of that. I personally don't think that it's right. I think that you always need a balanced approach, but a lot of employers take this approach. So trying to get internships while you study in big companies, I think is going to help. I see a lot of people doing Kaggle projects and lead code, these kind of things. It's good experience. It's a nice thing to do. I don't necessarily think that it's something that a lot of employers are going to look at, and they're going to say, oh, you did the Titanic data set and predicted who's going to drown, so you must be, the ideal candidate for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think that's the best thing. If you want, you can focus on trying to create real world impact. So if you have friends, for example, they have a business and they don't have any data people, you can go and tell them, I'm going to be your data scientist, even for free for now, just to gain some experience. It's good for me, it's good for you. I'm going to try and create value for your business. Try to help somebody using data. Talking about this kind of experience in a job interview, at least for me, I think I would be more impressed by that and prepare for interviews. If you cannot find a job as a data scientist, for example, sometimes it's easier to transition into a data science role while you're already employed in the company than when you're trying to apply from the outside. So, to give you an example, let's say that you're unable to find a data science job and you join a company as part of their operations team to do a completely different job, and they don't have reports, things are not working very well for them. So, in that sense, you can say, look, I know I'm operations, but I want to help you. I think that using your data, we can actually do much better. And you can start finding projects where you can create value for the company using their data from within the operations team. You try to figure out a way to create some data, work with the data teams within that company, and show them that you're very savvy, you're very keen, and gradually do more and more of this and create more value using data until at some point you can say, look, like most of what I do is data science work or analytics work anyway. I would like to transition and officially change my title to analyst or to data scientist, because that's what I do. That's how you create value for your company. If they agree to that, that's great, because in your CV, you've got your first data science job.
Okay, sounds fair. And another question I had was, what programming languages should I really prioritize?
So my answer is basically two parts, right? The first one is technologies and languages don't matter. Use what your employer needs you to use. In the end of the day, the
Okay.
idea behind them, the concepts behind them are very similar. What's different is the syntax, it's the development environment and the actual interfaces that you will use and so on and so forth. But if you focus on learning a language, you'll know one language. If you focus on learning concept, you will know all the languages. But the second part of this answer is, if you're a data practitioner, SQL and Python are probably going to be some of the most common languages that you will use, because almost every data querying engine uses SQL, like one flavor of SQL or another. So understanding SQL very well is a very good foundation for working with structured data.
Okay.
And also, Python is very, very common. There are lots of great Python libraries for analyzing and using data. So I think that the combination of SQL and Python is going to be very, very common. But as I said, If you find an employer and what they want you to use is MATLAB, then you use MATLAB, right? It doesn't matter.
Okay, okay, fair enough. And you also mentioned earlier that I should prepare for interviews. What are your tips for interviews? What should I be doing? What should I not be doing?
The technical part, I think, is the one that's easier to prepare for. First of all, there are a lot of questions online, there's a lot of materials online. When it comes to technical interviews, my approach is that I'm less focused on the technical aspects. I'm more interested in the approach. So if I ask the question, the candidate solve the problem, they don't talk to me throughout that. They just, type on the keyboard and get an answer out and say, okay, I'm done. I'm normally not super impressed by that. But if they take a look at the data, they ask clarifying questions. So you collect information, you collect data. I can see that you're actually thinking about it. Once you've clarified everything, you start answering the question, but you do it step by step. You're not just typing the whole thing, but you gradually build it and you test yourself, validating yourself along the way, getting to the result, making sure you're happy with it, and talking to me throughout the whole process, like sharing your thinking process. I think for me is really, really important. On technical interviews, for me, it's more about how you approach problem solving, how you think about problems, and less about how good you are at reading the questions and then translating that to working code.
Okay, okay.
When it comes to behavioral interviews, I think that the question I'm trying to answer is, would I want to work with this person? I might ask you questions like, tell me about conflicts you've had before, tell me about projects you've worked on. I'm less interested in the details of the project or the conflict. I really want to see that when you talk about a project, you are actually describing what was the business problem that you were trying to solve, how you approached that, and what was the outcome. And when you talk about conflicts and situation at work, so again, what was the situation that you've had? How did you approach that? What was the outcome? This kind of structure, I think, really, really helps. A lot of people, I ask them, okay, tell me about a project. And they tell me, okay, I built this. And I'm like, okay, and what happened? Like, what has anything been achieved
Just
as a result of you doing this? Treat it more like a conversation. In most cases, your interviewer is just a very nice person who you might be working with in the future. So I know interviewing is a very stressful situation, but still try to be at ease as much as you can. Try to make it a conversation. If you're something that you're talking about, something that your interviewer is not super interested about, take a pause and ask them, is that what you wanted me to say? Like, is that what you were expecting in that situation?
okay. Right off the bat, another question would be that what should I do to be better at what I'm studying and better at my job in the future?
Good question. I think for me, the most important thing is how do you use data to help the business. If you're the most amazing data scientist, machine learning engineer, you know all the algorithms, you can build whatever and train whatever models, but you work on projects and these projects deliver zero value to the company, then you're wasting everybody's time, right? Both your time and the company's time. So the ability to understand what the business wants, what the business problem is, and how you can help using data and connect the two, I think is one of the most important skills for any data person, really. And if you can understand how to do that, you'll be unstoppable.
Okay.
That's one thing. The other thing is good communication, good collaboration, learning abilities, the ability to take any subject and just learn and be curious and ask a lot of questions. I think those are the things, because you see the data landscape changes all the time. The tools we have today are not the same tools we've had 10 years ago. The concepts, the ideas we have today are not the same things we've had before. So you constantly need to adapt. So when I interview someone, I'm not necessarily looking for someone who is an expert at something. I'm looking for somebody who can learn anything
Okay.
and be a good person who can take feedback, who can ask a lot of questions, have growth mindset, be willing to change as needed, because our environment changes all the time.
Yeah, fair. Fair. Those are all the questions that I had. I think this conversation was amazing for me.
And I just wish you all the best. I'm sure you'll find something exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you will do in the future.